I ain't gonna lie, that girl had a big ass, though. Everybody say it with me. Dat ass. Dat ass.
What is up, guys? This is TyrantX1 here, and welcome to another game review. This time I'm reviewing the first Attack on Titan game, dubbed Attack on Titan Wings of Freedom, which basically replays the events of the first season of the anime. True, it's a little bit different from what I usually do, but then again, if you've seen my videos recently, you pretty much know that I'm an anime fan, so of course I was going to be playing this game eventually. Now, the game has two modes, attack mode, which is your story campaign, and expedition mode, which is your multiplayer section. And we'll begin with the attack mode, since that is the story/campaign, and it just basically replays the events that you see in the first season of the anime. And there are some subtle differences, as transforming an anime into a game, everything isn't going to be exactly the way it was. Anyone who's watched the anime and plays the game are going to notice these differences straight away. This doesn't affect the story whatsoever. It pretty much plays out exactly the way the anime does. And what I also do like is the fact that they introduce some things that you don't actually see in the anime. Like, there is a mission where you actually capture the two test subject titans, Bean and Sony, that Hanji uses to experiment on, which was actually quite interesting to see. It shows us how we pretty much captured the damn things, but I like how the story does try to implement a few things to like clear things up with certain story plot points and details. Although the story does end very anticlimactically. It's like once you defeat the female titan in the final level, it sort of just stops, does the story. And then it pretty much introduces you to the epilogue, which is pretty much season 2 in some ways. Like, you pretty much do a few missions up against the Beast Titan, and that's pretty much it. Although it is kind of annoying, since you have to kind of grind a bit just so you can move on to the next mission. So in some ways, I haven't fully finished the epilogue, but I pretty much know how it's going to end at this point. So, yeah. The campaign is pretty damn long too, especially if you do like survey missions and stuff like that in between. It's just so you can get like materials and stuff to upgrade yourself over time, which I'll explain in a minute. The campaign can incredibly drag on, and it gets quite repetitive. And that sort of made the game die a bit for me. I was like, the story was okay. Well, of course the story's okay since it's just replaying the first season all again, but it just got quite stale, quite slowly over time. It's like the more I played it, the more I didn't want to play it. And since I gave up pretty much just probably before the epilogue ended, I just couldn't push myself to do certain things just so I could finish the epilogue. But I pretty much finished the campaign overall. And yeah, it starts out okay, but then it gets quite repetitive and grindy, and you just don't want to complete it till the very end, which is very sad to see, but that's just how things are with these types of games sometimes. Also, in the story, you don't play as one character. You don't just play as Eren Yeager, you also play as Mikasa, you play as Levi, and you also play as Armin too. And I find it kind of funny how you play more as these other characters, Mikasa, Levi, and Armin, than you do as Eren, because Eren, you pretty much only play like from the beginning and the end of the game, whereas Mikasa, Levi, and Armin, you play pretty much in between everything else. And that's kind of funny when your main character you don't even play as the most. I think you actually play more as Levi or Mikasa than friggin' Eren, which is surprising as hell, but it's kind of funny considering they're the better characters. Also, during the cutscenes, anyone who is a dub lover of the anime, you're not going to find that stuff here. Pretty much every cutscene you'll have, the characters speak in Japanese, so anyone who pretty much likes dub in anime, you're not going to find that stuff here. And everything, but luckily the text can be in English when they are speaking, so pretty much that'll help you understand. But something I did notice with the cutscenes themselves is that they don't mix well with like the transition into the cutscenes. It doesn't mix well sometimes. Sometimes you get to a point in the game and then suddenly like a cutscene comes in, and then it doesn't work sometimes, as I saw. And the cutscenes themselves weren't that great. Now, as I said before, this game can get pretty damn grindy, as the campaign can last out a pretty good amount of time, especially considering there is a large amount of customization within the game, where you can customize your ODM gear, your blades, the gas canisters, which help out with your damage, your mobility, the amounts of air you have left in your canister. It's actually kind of nice to see the amount of customization within this game, and it's actually quite a decent amount. You just have to work for it quite a lot, which is basically from either completing the story missions with a good ranking, as each of the missions you play have a specific amount, like specific things you have to do, which will get you a decent ranking from C, B, A, or S ranking. So depending on the rank you get at the end of the mission, it will definitely sum up what materials and credits you'll get from that mission itself, which will obviously help you with getting certain materials and stuff to customize your gear with. And these will also help out when it comes to upgrading and modifying your equipment too, which is nice to see. So there's quite a lot of stuff you can do with your gear and the amount of materials you can use. And I mean, there's also a fortify option as well. I'm not entirely sure what that exactly did. I never exactly figured that bit out, sorry to say. Hell, you can even get different horses in the game, since they are the standard mode of transportation for the Survey Corps when they are battling Titans, along with the ODM gear which they use to battle them, which, I mean, there isn't a huge amount of options when it comes to the horses, but, I mean, they're just kind of there, as from what I saw. Another thing about your progression through the story is that the difficulty will slowly climb up. You can't really select a certain difficulty in this game. It's basically defined by the number of stars you see for a mission, and that basically shows you how difficult the mission is going to be. And the further you get throughout the game, the tougher the enemies will become, which means customizing your character is a big priority. And it also depends on which character you play as too, as different characters have different abilities, and each character you play as will have their own leveling up system, and the more you level up your character, the more abilities you will unlock for them, and I really like that too. So there is a lot of replayability in this game when it comes to the grinding system, like leveling up your character, getting better materials for better upgrades and modifications for your equipment. So I do like how, even though it can be a bit repetitive, the game can be a bit repetitive, it is kind of worth it when it comes to the grinding. The Titans themselves as enemies aren't great to begin with. They're very easy to kill once you get the control schematic down, and the control schematic is kind of weird to begin with, but this is definitely something that the game gets right very well, is the fact that it makes the gameplay feel authentic to the way the ODM gear and swinging around and stuff and killing Titans would feel in the anime. It definitely gives you that kind of feeling, and I really liked how they nailed that point. But back to the Titans themselves, they will get tougher to kill as the difficulty climbs up, and they'll even start to gain certain defenses, meaning you'll have to think about the way you attack them a bit more. You'll have to like go for certain limb parts or something like that, where if you take them out, then their weak point, the nape, will become defenseless, and then that's when you can go for the kill. And I like how sometimes there are some epic animations where you're just killing dudes, where you kill the Titans in such a fun fashion. However, when it comes to the boss Titans, there's only like a specific type, so you'll see. Like there's the female Titan and the beast Titan that you'll see from time to time in the campaign, well, pretty much at the very end of the campaign, and they can be quite a challenge to fight, especially the female Titan. She can be a bit of a pain at times, but other Titans, the abnormal Titans, are fairly easy when you pretty much get down to it. I mean, all you have to do is like hit a certain weakness or hit their arms and chop them off, and then you pretty much just get to their nape, and that's pretty much it. So the game doesn't exactly do boss battles very well, especially when you fight the female Titan when you're in your Eren Titan form, you just basically just mash the buttons as much as you can, and that's pretty much it. That's the fight. It's not done very well as the final boss fight, and that's kind of disappointing, really. Now, I want to talk about the repetitiveness of the game, and that's mainly due to the missions themselves. The missions themselves really do not help with this. It's the fact that most of the time you're pretty much doing the same thing. I mean, yeah, going around killing titans is pretty much the objective of the game, and they do try to mix things up a little sometimes by having, like, you do certain objectives, but it's always the same stuff most of the time. There's always, like, there's a titan meter which pretty much shows you how many titans there are in the level, and it'll gradually go down as you kill titans. But there's a lot of other things that are around. There's these side missions where you go around trying to help like certain characters who can then add to your roster of allies who can in the fight against the titans. But it's always the same thing. It's like you go to them, kill a bunch of titans, and then it's the same thing. I mean, there's sometimes like a civilian that needs protecting, but that's pretty much it. There's not much else they do with the side missions within the main missions themselves. And yeah, I mean, there's other things around, like you have resupply drops which will help you with getting more gear and stuff like that. There's also like other sort of specific types of equipment you can use, like flash and sound grenades, which help you, especially in a moment where a titan grabs you and is about to eat you, unless you just whack your sword on their hand, which sometimes works as well. But I do like how there's other specific, like, little bits of equipment you can use against the titans, and which also do help in the boss battles themselves. But that's the missions themselves are practically mainly the same. You do the same thing practically almost every single time. You go around, kill titans, do these little side missions and whatever the main objective is, and it always ends with you having to fight like an abnormal titan. That's pretty much it. That is literally the missions that you have to do. And that's my big problem with the game, is the fact that even though it's fun, like playing around killing titans, it's just the fact that there's no variety with the missions. I mean, sure, once you finish the campaign mostly, you do get these sort of quests from specific characters that you have to do specific things for them, but they run out very quickly. They go away and that's it. Once you get them done, that's pretty much the only new thing introduced into the game. That's pretty much gone, and yeah, then it just becomes a repetitive grind once more. Now, even though the missions themselves are repetitive, at least the level design tries. I mean, you have your district areas where there's like loads of buildings, and obviously they can be a bit of a issue when you're trying to like attack the titans effectively. So it's gonna be pretty cramped in certain areas, making it a bit difficult for maneuvering around. But then you have like your more open areas where you have to time your attacks very specifically, because you're not going to have much for your ODM gear to attach to, so you have to really think about when you're going to attack the titan. Although that's the thing, it's very easy to attach yourself to the titans themselves. It defeats the objective when it comes to timing your shots of attaching yourself to the titan so you can attack it. But there is a decent amount of different levels and designs and stuff like that. The only big problem is that the graphics are alright, because it is a little bit kind of weird seeing the characters in a more CGI 3D look. It's the fact that when you're traveling around some of the levels, especially the wide open ones, there's a lot of textures that just pop in randomly. Like when I'm going across a field, suddenly trees and bushes just pop up out of nowhere. And another thing, the running animation is bloody insane when you're just running around the map or the area where you're looking around to get some materials and upgrades. It's really stupid, but then again, that's anime logic. Now, I want to talk about the AI, and it's kind of mixed, really. I mean, the AI is good when you play as Armin or Erwin, because they are allowed to command your friendly AI units, so you can use them to attack the Titans. And they are pretty effective, especially considering what rank they are. But on their own, they're not too great. And yeah, they're just especially when it comes to when you're like trying to do an objective sort of thing, like a side mission, because some side missions have you trying to defend your AI partner from one part of the map to another, and they are so fucking slow sometimes. They take their goddamn time, and it's so annoying. It's like you clear a bunch of titans and then you go sort of so far ahead, and then your AI buddy is like all the way back at the other side of the map. It's infuriating. Another nice little thing that I liked with the mechanics is the way, when it comes to attacking the titans, you can actually lock onto certain body parts so you know which area you're going to be attacking. And it also shows how much health and other specific health meters it has, so you know how much there is left before it pretty much loses its limbs or before it dies. So I do like how it has that specific mechanic, so it isn't that difficult to take down titans. But the thing is, once you get used to that mechanic, it makes killing titans a bit too easy. The soundtrack was alright, but it was just basically a recreation of the soundtrack from the anime. I mean, it was done a little bit differently, but it just wasn't as memorable in my eyes. And finally, there is the Expedition mode, which is the multiplayer area. But there isn't that much to do. You only have the option to choose from survey missions and expedition missions. And the survey missions are in both the multiplayer and the campaign. And they're just basically just random missions where you just go around killing titans and doing side missions, just repetitive stuff. The expeditions are at least a little bit bigger, but they're still the same kind of thing. You go from it's sort of like a joint mission-based thing. Like you go from one mission, then you go to another mission. It's like multiple missions within one. But they're just both the same thing, just one is bigger than the other, and they both get repetitive and boring very quickly. And you can only have 4 players in your party at a time, and that isn't really decent at all. I mean, you could obviously have fitted that in the campaign, could have made the campaign cooperative. So yeah, and even then, you only have 10 playable characters in the multiplayer, which is kind of surprising. You have Eren, Mikasa, Armin, Jean, Connie, Sasha, Krista, Levi, Hanji, and Erwin. And the fact that you only have these characters, there's a lot of other characters you could have put in the multiplayer as well. You had Annie, you had Reiner, Berthold, you had Ymir, I think that's how you say her name. There's a lot of characters that just felt left out that you could have played as. But I do get that it's there are specific characters who have different sort of abilities. Like Levi and Mikasa have specific abilities where you can attack titans multiple times within one stroke. Erwin and Armin are more command AI units, whilst Eren is pretty much the only one who has his own specific ability, which is the Titan Shifter. But that's it. I mean, you only have 10 playable characters, but at least each of them have their own ranking and leveling up and certain abilities, but you could have done more here, and especially since you only have survey missions and expeditions as your only multiplayer modes. That kind of sucks ass, to be honest. Overall, Attack on Titan Wings of Freedom is a very, very mixed bag. I mean, it does well in certain areas like the character's abilities, the customization, the authenticity of what it's like to actually go around with your ODM gear and killing titans, but it does a lot of things wrong. It the fact that the campaign just drags on, it gets repetitive missions, the fact you have to do so much grinding just so you can move on to certain bits, the lack of game modes in the multiplayer, the lack of characters to play too, and just certain other smaller bits and pieces. This game is a huge mixed bag, but it was a very disappointing game to see, and yeah, it went from being okay to I just don't want to play this anymore. So overall, I'm going to give Attack on Titan Wings of Freedom. So, that is my review of Attack on Titan Wings of Freedom. Hope you guys have enjoyed this review. Leave a like down below, subscribe, comment on what you think of the game, and comment to me at what other games you think I could do. Share this video on social media, and I shall see you guys in the next random video.